Welcome to another structure generator video, and unfortunately I noticed a bug from while I was recording this video earlier. If you look here, I created a new bush structure, and as you can see, the bush and the stone are generating side by side, which means they're trying to generate in the same exact spot. So I fixed that on the project restoration website with the post. The downloaded jar is now fixed. So if you already downloaded it, I suggest just updating it because after I fixed it, this is what it looks like. Now they're not all trying to generate the same exact spot. But this is actually better because this is going to help me explain it clearer now that we actually have the structure I'm trying to generate. So it's a very simple bush. You have the bottom layer is just going to be a piece of wood and then surrounded by air, which that's not supposed to be there. And then the next layer is going to be wood in the middle surrounded by leaves, and then the next two layers, because it's a 3x3 of leaves, are just going to be leaves. So this is a 4 tall 3x3 structure. So I'm going to delete this quick and also stop the server because we didn't actually create it yet. So let's take the block and put it out here because that's what we had last time. And here's our structure. So our structure is going to be a bush. It's going to be 3 long, 4 tall, 3 wide. And this is how the data looks. You go bottom up, so it's the bottom layer. So we're going to have zeros surrounding a 17, and this is all the IDs. It's going to be air, air, and then the middle piece is the piece of wood, air, air, and that's our bottom layer. Our next layer has that piece of wood still, and well, I guess I killed the server. But remember that piece of wood that was still inside the leaves, that's that, and then surrounded by leaves, which is 18. Then the next two layers are going to be just 18, or leaves. And that's our bush structure. So you can see it's 4 layers, and then each of those layers are 3x3. And that's a proper structure right there. So we'll save this. We'll rename it to bush. Put it inside there, but we already have it inside there because I recorded this video earlier. And this is what it would look like. I've already seen this earlier, but man, that's a lot of bushes in the air. Because it's still generating 10 bushes per chunk. So, I mean, the bush is multiple times bigger than a single block, so it ends up really filling up the sky. Now, you're going to see over here, there's a piece of coal floating. That's because, and I still don't really have a solution to it quite yet, stone is being treated similar to how it would be just in the ground when the structures are generating. So, after it generates the structures, it also generates the ores. You can also see a floating piece of dirt down there. If I look long enough, I'd probably find another floating piece of dirt somewhere. That's because after the structures are generated, then it generates the ores, and when the ores generate, they replace stone. So this stone ended up getting replaced with coal, because coal generated here somewhere. And I have no solution to that yet. That's just a stone problem. Alright, let's talk about biomes. So now that we've created a larger structure, let's generate it in a certain biome. Now, biomes are kind of strange where it's not what you think it is. You'll see this image here on the project restoration website, and this represents the biomes. So when we go into the file, instead of the X, there's going to be 4 numbers that represents the top the highest humidity, or sorry, first is going to be the highest temperature that we can generate it at, and then the lowest temperature, and the highest humidity, and the lowest humidity. And you can get the references here for how this generator works. It's not what you think of. Um, this is not divided correctly in how the biomes actually generate, because um, certain areas of this get hit more often in the generator, and it also gets kind of warped or cut in half. That's why you see those triangle. Because when you search, beta biomes, it gives you a graph that's like either a triangle or a half circle, and that's because this is manipulated. Um, but this is kind of the baseline for how the generator picks up the temperatures. So use this as reference when setting up the temperatures. So let's say I just want to have the desert. So the desert goes from temperature 95 to 100, and then the humidity goes from 0 to 20. So we'll have this bush only generate in the desert. So the top is 100 for temperature, bottom is 95. Also something to note is, this might catch people. So this line here is at temperature 97, and then this down here is at 95. So beware of that little guy right there. And then for our humidity, the highest is 20, and the lowest is 0. So this is only going to generate in the desert now. So how the biome checker works is it just picks one block inside of a chunk to determine if that chunk will generate that or not. So it's not like it picks every new structure. It'll pick a block to check. No, it just checks one block in a chunk, and then it generates it if it's according to this or not. All right, let's save that and update that in here. All right, because I've already been walking around for a little while, I'm going to delete the world so then we can see where the desert starts. Only bushes generate, and where there's no desert, there's definitely only going to be stone. Whoops, I didn't delete it. Now this is the same seed, but it seems that Spawn decided to move to make things more difficult. So give me a moment as I find a desert. Well, it looks like we're already having, yeah, I can see a desert over there. I could see a cactus for a moment, but on this side, desert is being generated, so bushes are also being generated. Over here, the desert is no longer, so it's just the stone. Because we did not modify the stone, we only modified the bush and what biome it generates in. So a couple of tips using this rather interesting graph is, let's say you wanted to generate it purely in the forest. You would have to create two files at the moment, because first you would get this, portion up here, and then you would cover this little portion down here. All you would be doing is changing the temperatures and humidity and whatnot. It would be the same exact structure, just call it a different name, put it in the same zip file, and when the biome detects, up here, it'll generate it, and when it detects down here, it will still generate it because you have the same exact thing, just under a couple different temperatures and humidity. So yeah, you can place a couple of different areas. It would just be different files with different temperatures and humidity, but the same exact structure. That's all for this video. Next video, we'll be putting in some requirements for this to generate, because as you can see, we currently don't have any requirements, so the bush will literally try to generate wherever it can. So if we look around long enough, we will also find the bush generating into the ground and replacing blocks in the ground, like this guy. We do not want this. That is what we'll be fixing next video.